It is Jack and Ross from Cultaholic. Our tongues have just recovered. What am I referring to? I'm referring to our latest fun video on the old... Oh, you put it there.
It's there. Aye, there's a thumbnail there. Imagine it'll have me looking in pain, you with your head in your hands, having a great time.
Having a great time.
Basically, what we did is stole the concept of hot ones, changed it to Ross ones. You took a shot of hot sauce, you cut an iconic professional wrestling promo. The winner was the man to keep the straightest face.
We forgot about that.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Winner undetermined. But if you go and watch it, let us know in the comments of that video who actually won.
And tell us it was a great video as well.
I reckon it was him.
There's other news today as well. Wrestling, of the wrestling variety, not just the spicy challenge variety. So let's crack on with those now. These are our headlines. First of all, Samoa Joe has vacated the NXT title. Next up, Fox are reported to have tried to get CM Punk in WWE. And finally, Sami Zayn's contract is apparently set to expire soon. So yes, first of all, Samoa Joe, he's vacated the NXT Championship, according to himself. He's gone out on social media and he said all the things, Ross. I've noticed you've reacted there immediately. I'll just whiz through what he said first, and then we can throw it to you because clearly you've got some thoughts on this situation. Samoa Joe's statement read as follows. Hello, I'm NXT Champion Samoa Joe. As part of my recent return, my goals were very simple. I sought to ensure the respect and integrity due to both NXT and its championship. I sought to ensure that everybody understood the needs of one individual will never outstrip the sum of the brand. What an ironic thing to say that is. The needs of one individual will never outstrip the sum of the brand. Today, I find myself having to stand on these principles. Recently, WWE Medical has informed me that due to certain injuries, they would like to have me step away from the ring for a brief, yet still undetermined amount of time. And then he goes on to talk about the cusp of this new NXT and how he won't be there to lead NXT into this new era. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
I reckon it's all fake.
Oh,
I reckon we're starting a brand new era of NXT with all kinds of paint on the logo and whatnot. And to bring in that new era, a new title belt maybe, and a tournament to crown a brand new champion, an up and comer, a new face of NXT. It's
Gable Stevenson.
No, they're saving him for the tribal chief. I do believe. I reckon it'll be Pete Dunne.
Okay. Well, I mean, there is a fatal four-way match for the number one contendership. Do you think that'll just become a title match?
Oh, maybe.
I think we've got it written down here.
Oh,
well,
maybe, baby.
Ross, let me read out the competitors because I think you'll favour one over the others. Pete Dunne, Tommaso Ciampa, Kyle O'Reilly, and LA Knight. It's night
Let
time.
me talk to you.
Yeah,
it's night time, and night time is the right time for LA Knight to win the NXT title because that would be the best way to do things, wouldn't it? A brand new up and comer on the professional wrestling scene, a young whippersnapper called LA Knight because night time is the right time.
Yes.
On all seriousness, no, I do hope that Samoa Joe is okay.
If Samoa Joe's injury is
legitimate.
legitimate, we of course do wish him a full and speedy recovery. I think there's points for and against. I don't want to dive in and say it's definitely a work or I'll eat my hat or anything like that. That would be stupid.
That'd be stupid, yeah.
But there's points for and against. I think Samoa Joe is older. We know that, perhaps more susceptible to injuries, and he's had a track record of injuries as well throughout his career. But on the other hand, a brief but undeterminate amount of time is a strange diagnosis for an injury, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it also sets up the nice possibility of, say, for example, Pete Dunne wins the title. We've already sowed the seeds, haven't we, in the past, that Pete Dunne and Samoa Joe having a matchup. It's a matchup we all want to see, I'm sure we can all agree on that one. So Pete Dunne winning the title, being all braggadocious, going, oh, I've won the title, me. And then Samoa Joe coming back saying, hey, I didn't lose that thing there, Bonnie lad. Let's have a main event and a takeover event. I think it all makes sense, doesn't it?
And you've got a feud straight away. Next up, apparently, Fox tried to get CM Punk in WWE. It had been reported in the past, of course, that Fox were displeased, shall we say, with WWE's lack of interest, really, in securing one of the biggest names in modern wrestling history. But Punk, who confirmed last week in an ESPN interview that WWE did indeed contact him to try and get him back at some point, but they didn't progress that far. Apparently he was well liked by those at Fox and had a good relationship with execs at the time working on WWE backstage. But in The Observer, Meltzer is saying that WWE had no interest in Punk, but then when it became clear he might be going to AEW, then Fox were like, well, hang on, you might want to actually try and get him. But apparently Punk's demands were too high, but not for big money Tony Khan.
I reckon they would have been slightly different for Tony Khan. Do you reckon? A certain price point would have been there for the Fed, the WWE, and another price point would have been there for Tony, because we've heard it so many times from CM Punk himself. He was always adamant he would never go back there because of how miserable they made him and how they treated him when he was injured, and we've all heard the stories on the podcast and whatnot.
I think that's a good point.
Do you reckon that's a thing we can put out into the universe, a bit of speculative bollocks?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was true, but we've got nothing to go on. But I like your theory. But I like your theory, though. I think it's a good one, especially because he's been so positive and outgoing since he's gone to AEW.
He just looks happy, doesn't he?
Does. Yeah. It's nice to see.
Would it be weird though? Because as we all know, when CM Punk worked for the backstage show, that was him working for Fox, not working for WWE.
As he made very clear.
Could we see a potential scenario where CM Punk wrestles for AEW but works for Fox on a show like Backstage if it came back?
He goes on Fox to trash WWE on a weekly basis. I mean, that would be that would be very funny indeed. But I don't know. I mean, to answer your question, I'll say no.
That's fair, yeah.
But it is a funny scenario. What's not a funny scenario, what's an interesting one, is another story reported, this time more vaguely, in a more offhand way, by Dave Meltzer, who says that Sami Zayn's WWE contract is set to... I got a touch of the Michael Coles there. His WWE contract is set to expire later on this year. He didn't specify at all when, and he didn't speculate on what Sami Zayn might do too much with any great level of detail. So I think he knows pretty much just that Zayn's contract's up soon. But the reason this is important is because we've seen wrestlers like Sami Zayn jump ship recently, haven't we?
It's worrying times, isn't it? Because it makes you wonder how many of these wrestlers of this ilk, your Sami Zayns, your Kevin Owens, who's also reported his contract's meant to be up at the end of this year, isn't it? The start of next year. How many of these wrestlers of that ilk, with the indie backgrounds and whatnot, who bring in a certain audience to watch WWE, how many of those they can actually lose?
Yeah.
And it's worrying, because Kevin Owens worries me greatly for WWE. You cannot lose Kevin Owens.
He should be a way bigger deal than he is in WWE.
Get him the leading heel on Raw. It's got to be done. Make the Tribal Chief the face of SmackDown from a heel perspective. Kevin Owens on Raw from a heel perspective. It just makes too much sense to me. But Sami Zayn as well. Been knocking out the park ever since he turned heel, especially a couple of years ago now, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a long time ago with the stuff with Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon and Hell in a Cell and all that stuff. So to lose him would be a massive blow once again, as he showed at WrestleMania season, going up against Kevin Owens and the stuff with Logan Paul. Sami Zayn, we all know, is fantastic. Their loss would be anyone else's gain.
Yes. Now, you say anyone else, which I'm glad you've said, because obviously the first place that anyone's going to speculate that people like Owens and Zayn will go will be AEW. But the question's being asked already. We got asked it on the podcast last week. How many of these wrestlers can AEW take on and still give them all space to shine, basically? It's quite an interesting situation.
And it makes you wonder, by the time Sami Zayn's contract is up, how many more releases will there have been, and how many more chances will there have been for AEW to sign up more released wrestlers? It's a very interesting landscape, the professional wrestling world at the minute.
It is. It very, very much is. But I'm excited to see what happens, though. The developments are astounding.
Who knows? We might sign him here at Cultaholic Wrestling. Sami Zayn on the news in the morning. Imagine that, having a great time doing the dancing and whatnot.
You'd just be editing it. We won't let him on camera. We've learned from Vince McMahon not to give him too much camera time. WWE, though, are already apparently discussing a eventual match between Brock Lesnar and a man we mentioned just earlier, Gable Stevenson. According to Meltzer, there are already big plans being discussed in some sort of torch-passing match down the line. Now, Ross, this shocks me, because the phrase torch-passing implies that Brock Lesnar would lose to Gable Stevenson.
I think that's the right thing to do, and I think that's what will happen, because Gable Stevenson and Brock Lesnar are Minnesota wrestling friends. We do the wrestling together. Here's how you do the wrestling, Gable, says Brock Lesnar to Gable Stevenson. I think down the line it just makes sense. We look at just Gable Stevenson's background. He's Olympic gold medalist, for goodness sake. He's won every single bloody thing just about. I'm speaking like I know what I'm talking about.
Speaking like his manager.
Yeah, I'm the advocate for Gable Stevenson. Straight to Hell episode. Look, there's evidence there that he was on the show once upon a time. Go and watch it. It's fantastic. He's a massive fan of wrestling. But that makes complete sense to me. I saw another report, and I'm not too sure where it came from. I should have made a note for it, saying that Gable Stevenson is being fast-tracked for a career on the main roster, and that could happen as early as next May. I mean, so whoever reported that, thank you for bringing that into the world.
It's not too surprising, is it, to be honest? No, he's an athletic boy, to say the least. He's an Olympic gold medalist.
You just look at people like Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey, people who have done the legitimate sports. They pick up wrestling quicker because they are mouldable, coachable, all that kind of Apple stuff.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens and what a match that would be once, of course, Gable Stevenson's been built up more, I suppose, in the eyes of the WWE Universe. Thanks very much for watching this video. I'm sure we'll be back for more news later on as well. And do leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And check out our spicy video as well, because we have not suffered for that video not to be watched by you. So do watch it, please.
And if you don't like either me or him, watch it twice because you see us in pain, therefore you'd like it.
Yeah. And then leave comments saying how nice it is. See you later, everyone. See you soon.